There comes a moment somewhere between midnight thoughts and early morning silence where you sit alone with your reality and feel the weight of everything you haven't yet become. And in that quiet space where the excuses can't hide and distractions fade into nothing, you realize something that most people spend their entire lives running from. You cannot cheat the grind. You cannot shortcut the process. And no matter how badly you wish it, success will not bend its rules for your comfort. It doesn't matter how smart you are, how talented you think you might be, or how many times you tell yourself that you'll start tomorrow, because tomorrow has buried more dreams than failure ever could. And the truth, the raw and unfiltered truth, is that everything you want is on the other side of effort you've been avoiding. You see, people love the idea of success. They love the image of it, the applause, the recognition, the moment where everything finally clicks into place and the world turns its attention toward them. But what they don't love, what they don't show, what they try to escape at every opportunity is the grind. The early mornings when your body begs for sleep, but your vision demands discipline. The late nights when doubt creeps in like a shadow whispering that maybe you're not enough. The countless hours of repetition where nobody is watching, nobody is clapping, nobody is validating your effort, and yet you keep going because something deep inside refuses to let you quit. And that's where most people fall apart. Not because they aren't capable, but because they are unwilling to pay the price that greatness requires. They want the reward without the sacrifice, the victory without the struggle, the result without the process. But life doesn't work like that. The universe doesn't negotiate with your excuses. It responds only to action, to consistency, to persistence that refuses to break even when everything around you feels like it's falling apart. Think about the moments when you told yourself you would change, when you felt that fire ignite inside you, that surge of motivation that made you believe you could conquer anything. And then think about how quickly that fire faded when things got hard. That's the difference between interest and commitment. Interest says, I'll do it when it's convenient. Unity says, I'll do it when it's convenient. Commitment says, I'll do it no matter what. And success, real success, the kind that transforms your life from the inside out, only responds to commitment. There will be days when you question everything. Days when you look at your progress and feel like you're moving nowhere. Days when the effort you're putting in seems invisible, like you're running in place while the world passes you by. And in those moments, your mind will try to convince you that it's not worth it, that maybe you should take the easier path, that maybe you should settle for less. But that voice, that whisper of doubt, is the very thing you must learn to overcome. It's the very thing you must learn to overcome, because growth does not happen in comfort. It happens in resistance and struggle, in the moments when quitting feels like the most logical choice, and yet you choose to continue anyway. Because here's the reality that nobody can escape. You can delay the grind, you can ignore it, you can pretend it doesn't exist, but eventually it will demand its due. And when it does, the longer you have avoided it, the heavier it becomes. There was a time when a young man named Thomas Edison failed not once, not twice, but thousands of times trying to create something that the world had never seen before. Imagine the frustration, the exhaustion, the constant reminder that every attempt had led to another failure, another dead end. Most people would have stopped long before reaching that point, convincing themselves that maybe it just wasn't meant to be. But Edison didn't see it that way. He didn't measure his progress by immediate success. He understood something deeper, something that separates those who succeed from those who don't. He saw each failure not as a defeat, but as a step closer to the solution. And when he was finally asked about his repeated failures, he didn't say he had failed thousands of times. He said he had found thousands of ways that didn't work. That's the mindset the grind demands. It demands that you redefine failure, that you stop seeing obstacles as barriers and start seeing them as part of the path. Because every great achievement, every breakthrough, every moment of triumph you admire was built on a foundation of struggle that nobody applauded. And then there was Abraham Lincoln, a man who faced defeat after defeat in business, in elections, in life itself. He lost more times than most people would ever be willing to endure. Yet he kept going, driven by something greater than temporary setbacks. Imagine carrying that weight, the repeated rejection, the public failures, the doubt from others and even from within, and still choosing to stand up again, to try again, to believe again. That is what the grind looks like. It is not glamorous, it is not easy, but it is necessary, because success is not about avoiding failure, it's about enduring it, learning from it, and using it as fuel to push forward. It's about understanding that the path to greatness is not a straight line, but a winding road filled with obstacles that test your resilience at every turn. And then there's the story of Walt Disney, a man who was once told that he lacked imagination, who faced bankruptcy, rejection, and countless setbacks before creating something that would inspire generations. Think about that for a moment. The very thing he would later be celebrated for was once dismissed as a weakness. How many times have you been told that you're not enough, that your dreams are unrealistic, that your goals are too big? And how many times did you start to believe it? Because the world will always have opinions. It will always try to define your limits based on its own fears and limitations. But the grind, the real grind, requires that you silence those voices and replace them with your own belief, your own vision, your own relentless determination to prove that you are capable of more. And this is where everything begins to change. Not in your circumstances, not in the world around you, but within you. Because the moment you accept that there are no shortcuts, that there is no easy way out, that the only way forward is through consistent, disciplined effort, is the moment you take control of your destiny. You stop waiting for motivation and start building habits. You stop relying on inspiration and start creating structure. You stop looking for validation and start trusting your process. And slowly, almost imperceptibly at first, you begin to transform. Because the grind is not just about achieving the goal, it's about becoming the person capable of sustaining that success. It's about building a mindset that doesn't break under pressure, that doesn't crumble in the face of adversity, that doesn't quit when things get hard. And it will get hard. There will be sacrifices. There will be moments where you have to choose between comfort and growth, between short-term pleasure and long-term success. And those choices, the ones that nobody sees, the ones that don't come with immediate rewards, are the ones that define your future. Because every time you choose discipline over distraction, every time you push through when you feel like stopping, every time you show up when it would be easier to quit, you are reinforcing something powerful within yourself. You are building resilience. You are strengthening your belief. You are proving not to the world but to yourself that you are capable of more. And that's where the real transformation happens, not in the external results, but in the internal shift that turns doubt into confidence, fear into courage, hesitation into action. Because at the end of the day, it's not about how fast you get there, it's about who you become in the process. In the process, the grind is unavoidable. So the question is not whether you will face it, but whether you will embrace it. Because those who try to cheat it always end up paying a higher price. And those who respect it, who commit to it, who show up day after day, regardless of how they feel, are the ones who eventually rise above. So when the alarm rings and your body tells you to stay in bed, remember why you started. When the work feels endless and progress feels slow, remind yourself that every step forward matters. When doubt creeps in and tries to convince you to quit, recognize it for what it is, a test. A test of your commitment, a test of your discipline, a test of your belief. And every time you pass that test, every time you choose to keep going despite the resistance, you are getting closer to something greater than success. You are becoming unstoppable. Because the truth is, success is not built in moments of comfort. It is forged in moments of struggle. And the grind that most people are unwilling to endure. And if you are willing, if you are ready to embrace that grind with everything you have, then there's nothing, absolutely nothing that can stop you from becoming who you were meant to be. But you have to understand, you cannot cheat it. You have to earn it every single day. And in that quiet struggle, when the world seems indifferent to your effort, there is a voice inside you that asks the most important question. How badly do I want it? Not how much do you want to look successful or to impress others but how much do you want to live the life that only you can create for yourself? Because the grind is honest. It doesn't lie. It doesn't flatter. It doesn't care about your excuses or your setbacks. The grind will give you exactly what you earn, nothing more, nothing less. And the only way to collect that reward is to show up when no one is watching, to push when everyone else is resting, to keep fighting when the easier option would be to quit. Imagine a young boy growing up in a neighborhood where dreams were whispered but rarely lived, where every door seemed closed, every opportunity seemed out of reach. That boy could have surrendered to his circumstances. He could have blamed the world for his failures, the system for his obstacles, his own limitations for his struggles. But instead, he chose to rise before the sun, to train harder than anyone else, to read, to learn, to expand his mind while the rest of the world slept. And years later, that boy became a man who not only changed his own life, but inspired millions around him. He became a symbol of relentless perseverance. His story is proof that the grind does not discriminate. It rewards those who refuse to give up, who choose effort over comfort, who understand that there is no shortcut to mastery. Think of Henry Ford, who failed 5 times before building an automobile empire. Imagine the ridicule, the financial strain, the constant doubt from people around him telling him that his ideas would never work. How easy it would have been to give in, to accept mediocrity, to take a safer path. But Ford believed in the unseen vision before the world could recognize it. Every rejection, every failure, every mockery only strengthened his resolve. And through that unwavering persistence, he transformed the way humans move, the way industries work, the very way we live today. The lesson is clear. Success is not born from talent alone. It is born from persistence, from the willingness to endure what others refuse to endure, and to keep moving when the world says stop. And this is where the grind becomes almost spiritual, almost sacred. It is not just physical effort, it is mental and emotional resilience. It is the ability to endure the whispers of doubt, the sting of criticism, and the pressure of expectation without losing sight of your purpose. Because purpose is the compass that guides you through the darkness, the force that keeps you moving when the path feels impossible. Without it, discipline becomes hollow. Sacrifice becomes meaningless, and even success, when it finally arrives, feels empty. But when purpose drives you, when your vision is so clear that failure feels temporary and struggle feels necessary, that is when the grind becomes a privilege rather than a burden. And the truth is, most people are not prepared for this. They want the glory, but they are terrified of the process. They want the applause, but they refuse the hours of silent, relentless effort. They dream of victory, but they shy away from the pain that greatness demands. But you, if you are listening now, you have the choice to step into a different category. You can choose to embrace the discomfort, to honor the struggle, to become addicted to the process rather than the outcome. Because when you do, you realize that there is a rhythm to the grind, a flow to the effort, a beauty and a persistence that transforms ordinary people into legends. Consider Oprah Winfrey, who faced rejection after rejection in the early stages of her career. She was told she was unfit for television, that she didn't belong, that her voice and presence were not what the industry wanted. But she refused to internalize those limits. Instead, she committed to showing up every day, to learning, to growing, to believing in her own worth, even when no one else did. And eventually, that relentless dedication carved out a platform that reshaped media and inspired generations. Her story is a reminder that the grind is not a punishment. It is the proving ground where ordinary resolve is transformed into extraordinary legacy. And then there's Michael Jordan, cut from his high school basketball team, doubted by coaches, overlooked by peers. Every setback could have been the end of the story. Every failure could have been a reason to quit. But Jordan understood that greatness is never convenient, that talent alone is not enough, and that perseverance under pressure is the ultimate differentiator. He embraced the grind in the gym, in practice, in conditioning, in the countless shots that nobody saw. And when the light shone on the stadium, when the fans cheered, when history remembered his name, it was not the moments of applause that defined him, but the unrelenting effort that preceded them. This is why the grind cannot be cheated them. This is why the grind cannot be cheated. Because it is not about luck, it is not about shortcuts, It is not about waiting for opportunity to fall into your lap. The grind is about showing up when it hurts, about working when it seems pointless, about refusing to, but even when your mind and body demand surrender. It is about internalizing the truth that effort compounds, that every repetition, every sacrifice, every sleepless night is a brick in the foundation of your ultimate success. And when you finally reach the top, when your vision materializes into reality, it will not feel accidental. It will feel earned. It will feel inevitable. And that feeling, that triumph born of persistence, is far greater than any moment of luck, chance, or fleeting fortune. So today, understand this: the road ahead will not be easy. It will demand your energy, your focus, your heart, and sometimes your very sanity. There will be days when you question why you started. Days when you feel like the world is stacked against you. Days when you wonder if the effort is worth it, and the answer is always the same. Yes, every tear, every drop of sweat, every sacrifice matters, because nothing worth achieving comes without a price. And if you are willing to pay that price with every ounce of your being, you will discover a strength within yourself that you never knew existed, a resilience that can withstand any storm, a resolve that cannot be shaken. And in that moment, when you finally look back at the path you traveled, when you see the countless hours, the failures, the sacrifices, the moments you wanted to quit but did, you will understand why the grind could never be cheated. It was never about the speed of your progress. It was about the depth of your commitment, the intensity of your focus, and the power of your refusal to surrender. And in that understanding, you will realize that the journey itself, the relentless pursuit, is the greatest reward of all. And as you continue, as you endure, as you push through the moments that most people collapse under, you begin to see a truth that changes everything. The grind is not punishment, it is preparation. Every setback, every failure, every moment of doubt is shaping you into the person capable of handling the life you desire. It is teaching you discipline when the world tempts you with distraction, resilience when every instinct screams surrender, and patience when immediate results seem impossible. And this is where the invisible work, the long nights, the repetitions nobody sees, the self-doubt wrestled into submission, transforms into an invisible armor. You begin to walk taller, think sharper, and believe deeper, because you know that what you are building is not temporary. It is permanent. It is you, forged in fire and shaped by relentless effort, unstoppable by circumstance, unshakable by criticism, and invincible in the face of fear. Now, imagine a man standing alone in a small, dimly lit room, surrounded by papers filled with mistakes, experiments that failed, and ideas that seemed to lead nowhere. That man could have given up. He could have surrendered to frustration, to exhaustion, to doubt. But instead, he leaned closer, studied harder, tried again. That man was Edison. And what separated him from the countless others who would have quit was not genius, not luck, but refusal. Refusal to accept failure as permanent. Refusal to compromise on vision. Refusal to let the world dictate the limits of his potential. Every failure was a stepping stone. Every rejection a lesson. Every sleepless night a declaration that he would not be denied. And when the world finally recognized his success, it saw only the light bulb, the invention, the result, never fully grasping the invisible grind that made it inevitable. But he knew, and that knowledge gave him something no external validation ever could. Certainly born from effort, power born from perseverance. And this is the essence of purpose. Purpose is the fuel that keeps you running when the path is dark. Purpose is the compass that guides you when the noise of doubt and criticism threatens to overwhelm. Purpose is what turns struggle into opportunity, setbacks into lessons, and persistence into progress. Without purpose, the grind is meaningless, a repetitive cycle of exhaustion without reward. With purpose, every sacrifice has meaning, every failure has value, every step forward becomes part of a greater journey towards your ultimate destiny. It is the difference between wandering aimlessly and charging forward with unstoppable force, between drifting in the current and commanding the flow of your own life. And as the grind continues, you begin to understand the language of growth. You learn that belief is not wishful thinking, but a muscle strengthened by action. You learn that discipline is not restriction, but freedom, the freedom to do what must be done, even when you don't feel like it. You learn that sacrifice is not loss, but investment, the investment of energy, time, and focus into something far greater than immediate gratification. You learn that consistency is the invisible thread connecting your effort today to your success tomorrow, the bridge between ordinary potential and extraordinary achievement. And you learn that personal responsibility is not a burden, but power. The power to shape your life, to define your identity, and to claim ownership over your destiny. Because no one else will do it for you. No external force, no moment of luck, no chance encounter can substitute for the relentless commitment of a person willing to endure the grind. And in that process, your vision begins to crystallize. You see not just the next step, but the entire path. The peaks, the valleys, the obstacles, the triumphs. You see yourself standing on the other side of resistance, transformed, stronger, wiser, unrecognizable to the person who first started the journey. You see the layer. As you will touch the influence, you will wield the legacy you will leave. And that vision becomes magnetic, pulling you forward, even when everything around you tries to push you backward. It is not abstract. It is not a dream you hope for. It is a living, breathing force that shapes your daily choices, dictates your priorities, and compels you to show up every single day, no matter how hard it gets. Consider the story of J.K. Rowling, whose manuscript for Harry Potter was rejected by 12 publishing houses. Imagine the despair, the doubt, the temptation to quit. Yet she persisted because she believed not only in her story, but in her voice, in her vision, and in her right to create something that mattered. Every no she faced was a test of her resolve, a measurement of her willingness to endure the grind. And when the world finally said yes, it was not just a victory for her career. It was validation that relentless persistence fueled by purpose and belief cannot be denied. Her story reminds us that the grind is a proving ground, and those willing to endure it emerge not just successful, but unstoppable, unbreakable, and unforgettable. And then there's Elon Musk, who poured himself into ventures that others said were impossible, who risked everything financially, emotionally, physically, on visions that seemed unreachable. He faced failures that could have ended careers, projects that could have ruined reputations, and setbacks that could have crushed their ambition. Yet he endured because the grind, the relentless pursuit of a vision larger than comfort, is what separates ordinary from extraordinary. He understood that temporary pain, hardship, and struggle are not obstacles. They are the process, the requirement, the foundation upon which groundbreaking achievements are built. And in that understanding lies a lesson that transcends any industry, any dream, any ambition. If you are willing to endure what others refuse, if you are willing to sacrifice what others cling to, you will achieve what others can only imagine. And now as you sit here listening, you must ask yourself the same question. How badly do you want it? How willing are you to face the nights of doubt, the moments of fear, the endless repetition, and the exhaustion that nobody sees? How committed are you to becoming the person capable of living the life you dream about? Because the grind is weighty. It does not pause. It does not negotiate. It does not care if you are tired, afraid, or unsure. It rewards action, persistence, and unbreakable resolve. And every day you hesitate, every day you seek comfort over growth, every day you cheat yourself out of effort, the price of success grows heavier. But every day you choose discipline, courage, and commitment. The path forward becomes clearer, the reward becomes closer, and the transformation becomes inevitable. And when that transformation arrives, when the vision you clung to in the darkness finally materializes, you will understand something profound. It was never about luck. It was never about chance. It was never about being in the right place at the right time. It was about the grind, the relentless pursuit, the refusal to quit, and the unwavering belief that you could endure what others could not. And that realization will ignite a fire inside you that no obstacle can extinguish, a power that no doubt can shake, a confidence that no failure can diminish. Because you will know without a shadow of a doubt that you earned it, that you became it, that you are unstoppable. And now, as you move forward, you must confront a reality that most people refuse to face. The world will not hand you success on a silver platter. It will not bend its rules for your convenience. It will not applaud your intention, your planning, or your dreaming. The world only responds to action, to relentless effort, to someone who is willing to grind when everyone else is resting, to someone who is willing to sacrifice when others are indulging, to someone who refuses to quit when it seems easier to give in. And in those moments when your body aches, when your mind whispers that it's too much, when every part of you wants to surrender, you will discover the true measure of your spirit. That's when the grind reveals its ultimate secret. It does not just build success, it reveals who you really are. And if you endure it long enough, if you push through the pain, if you refuse to stop when the world says you should, you will become someone unrecognizable, not in appearance, but in power, in resilience, in vision, in the ability to handle whatever life throws your way. Imagine standing at the edge of your comfort zone, staring into a future that seems uncertain, intimidating, impossible even. Your mind will scream at you to retreat, to settle, to lower your expectations, to choose safety over greatness. That is the moment that defines you. That is the moment when legends are made, when ordinary people decide to take extraordinary steps. That is the moment when the grind tests your will, your courage, your commitment, and your heart. And in that test, there is no escape, no excuse, no escape, no excuse. There is only the choice to push forward, to rise above, to fight through every fear, every doubt, every whisper that tries to convince you that you are not enough. Think about Nelson Mandela, who endured 27 years in prison, stripped of freedom, comfort, and certainty. Most people would have given up long before reaching the light, but he understood that the struggle itself was shaping him, preparing him for the responsibility, the leadership, and the vision that will one day transform an entire now. You see, every day of hardship, every moment of isolation, every challenge imposed upon him became part of his armor, part of his preparation for greatness. And when he finally stepped into freedom, when he finally led, he was ready not just because of his talent, but because of the grind that had sculpted his mind, fortified his spirit, and sharpened his resolve. That is the power of persistence. That is the truth of endurance. That is the reality that nobody can cheat. And then consider Serena Williams, who faced countless injuries, setbacks, and doubters, yet rose time and again to dominate the sport she loved. Every match lost, every obstacle faced, every criticism endured became fuel for her next victory. She understood that success is not a straight line, that every fall, every challenge, every defeat is a teacher, a test, a stepping stone toward the ultimate prize. And what separates champions like her from those who quit is not talent alone, but a relentless obsession with improvement, a refusal to rest on comfort, a willingness to pay the price in sweat, in sacrifice, in lonely hours nobody sees. That is the grind. That is what cannot be cheated. That is the foundation of every life-changing achievement. And if you are willing to listen, if you are ready to act, you have to embrace the same principle. You must accept that no one will hand you victory, that every step forward will demand effort, sweat, patience, and courage. That every moment of doubt, every obstacle, every failure is not a reason to quit, but a reason to push hard. Because what you endure in private, what you sacrifice when no one is watching, what you continue to pursue when it seemed impossible, that is what creates power. That is what creates momentum. That is what separates those who dream from those who achieve. There are no exceptions, no shortcuts, no magic formula. Only effort are relentless and unyielding. And as you grind, as you endure, as you push yourself to levels you never thought possible, you begin to understand that limits are illusion, that fear is temporary, that doubt is conquered by action. You discover a strength you didn't know existed, a confidence that no one can shake, a vision that no one can obscure. And the world begins to shift around you, not because it owes you anything, but because you have transformed into someone capable of commanding it, capable of achieving it, capable of achieving what once felt unreachable. That is the reward of the grind. That is the secret that the complacent will never know. That is the truth that separates legends from the rest. But when the nights are long, when your energy wanes, when your mind tries to convince you that it's too much, remember why you started. Remember the vision that pulled you from mediocrity into possibility. Remember the fire inside that refuses to be extinguished. Now remember this, every second of effort, every drop of sweat, every moment you refuse to quit is an investment in a future self who will thank you, who will stand taller, who will live freer, who will achieve beyond imagination. There is no substitute. There is no cheat code. There is only the grind, and it is sacred. It is honest. It is real, and it is yours to conquer. And the truth is simple. You cannot cheat the grind. You cannot wish it away. You can't shortcut it. You can't pretend it doesn't exist. The grind is relentless, uncompromising, unforgiving, but it is also honest, consistent, and unshakable. It gives to those who earn it and nothing to those who don't. And if you are willing to endure, willing to sacrifice, willing to ride every time you fall, then the rewards will come. Not because someone gave them to you, but because you earned them, because you were willing to do what others would not. And now, as you stand on the edge of possibility, as you feel the weight of every choice you've made and every hour you've invested, you must understand this ultimate truth. The grind does not define you by how easy it is, but by how relentless you are. It does not measure the courage of those who only try when convenient, but the strength of those who ride, even when broken, tired, and doubting. And the difference between those who achieve greatness and those who fade into mediocrity is not talent, luck, or timing. It is the refusal to quit when it hurts, the insistence on pushing forward when the world seems determined to hold you back, the absolute commitment to becoming the person capable of living the life you dream about. Imagine for a moment the people who changed the world. Edison, Lincoln, Ford, Disney, Oprah, Mandela, Musk, Jordan, none of them were handed anything. None of them had a guarantee of success. None of them avoided the nights of pain, the days of rejection, the years of doubt. What they did have was a refusal to compromise, a willingness to endure, a relentless belief in a vision bigger than their circumstances. And every step of their journey, every setback they survived, every failure they transformed into a lesson was part of the grind. It was a process, the invisible labor, the silent sacrifice that no one saw, and yet it created results so powerful, so undeniable, so monumental that their names will echo through history. That is what the grind does. That is what it demands. That is what it rewards. And nothing can replace it. And you right now, listening to these words, are standing at a similar crossroads. You have a choice. To continue seeking comfort, to look for shortcuts, to wait for permission, to settle for less than your potential, or to rise and embrace the grind with everything you have. Because the world will not pause for you. Time will not slow down. Opportunities will not wait. Every day you delay, every second you waste avoiding effort is a second further away from the life you dream about, from the freedom you crave, from the legacy you were born to leave. But every day you commit, every moment you push forward, every obstacle you face and overcome brings you one step closer to becoming unstoppable. One step closer to proving first to yourself and then to the world that you will not be denied. You cannot cheat it, you cannot bypass it, you cannot fake it. The grind is honest and it reflects exactly what you are willing to give. If you bring half effort, you will get half results. If you bring excuses, you will receive disappointment. If you bring full dedication, relentless focus, and a refusal to quit, you'll be rewarded in ways that most people will never comprehend. And the truth is, the reward is not just external, it is internal. It is the transformation that occurs within, the unshakable confidence, the iron resolve, the ability to face any challenge without fear. It is the moment when you look in the mirror and recognize the person staring back at you, not the person who wished and hoped, but the person who endured, who fought, who conquered. That is the true prize. That is the ultimate victory. That is why the grind can never be cheated. And so you push, you wait before the world does. You train, you learn, you fail, you repeat, you embrace the pain, you honor the sacrifice, you refine your craft when no one is watching. You face rejection and disappointment with the knowledge that every step, no matter how small, is moving you forward. And slowly, gradually, almost imperceptibly at first, you begin to notice a change. Your resilience grows. Your confidence deepens. Your vision becomes sharper. Your strength becomes undeniable. You are no longer the person who once feared failure. You are no longer defined by circumstances. You are no longer defined by doubt. You have become something more. You have become unstoppable. And it comes the moment when everything aligns. Not because it was easy, not because it was handed to you, not because the path was clear, but because you endured, because you persevered, because you refused to quit when others did. You realize that the sweat, the pain, the relentless effort, the countless hours of invisible work, they were all necessary. They were not obstacles. They were not punishments. They were the process, the proving ground, the forge in which you became the person capable of greatness. And as that realization sinks in, it ignites a fire inside you, a fire that cannot be extinguished by fear, hesitation, or doubt, a fire that propels you forward, unstoppable, unbreakable, unyielding. And now, listen carefully. Whatever your dream, whatever your goal, whatever your vision, it is waiting for you on the other side of the grind. It will not come to you because you hope for it. It will not appear because you wish for it. It will only appear because you earned it, because you fought for it, because you refused to quit when it seemed impossible, because you embraced the struggle, honored the effort, and dedicated yourself fully to the process. That is the ultimate truth. That is the law of success. That is why the grind cannot be cheated. It is the gateway to every extraordinary life, every transformative achievement, every legacy worth leaving. But rise when the alarm rings. Rise when your body protests. Rise when doubt whispers in your ear. Rise when comfort tempts you to stop. Rise, because greatness is not found in ease. It is found in endurance. It is found in endurance. Rise because victory is not given, it is earned. Rise because the life you dream of, the freedom you crave, the legacy you were born to create is waiting on the other side of effort, sacrifice, and relentless pursuit. Rise, because the grind is calling, and it will reward only those willing to pay the price. And that price, that effort, that unwavering commitment is worth every second, every drop of sweat, every sleepless night, every moment you refuse to quit. And when you finally arrive, when you finally stand at the summit of your own potential, you will look back and understand in the deepest part of your soul that nothing can replace the grind, that nothing can substitute for effort, that nothing can cheat the process. And you will smile knowing that you did not take shortcuts. You did not settle. You did not give up. You endured. You fought. You conquered. You became. And in that moment, the world cannot touch you because you have already earned what most people will spend a lifetime chasing. You have become unstoppable. You have become unbreakable. You have become legendary. And that is the power of the grind.